Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Señores oyentes de Úrsula Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Round Table desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. Les habla Fernando Mendez, Pastor Phil at the controls, and we have news as usual from everywhere. Local news, national news, international news. International now also includes space travel. A whole bunch of people up in space. Now there are 4 that were recently sent flying into space, and not by the government, but by a private entity. So 4 newly minted astronauts, civilians. As we know, most astronauts have been called from the military. So these are 4 people who actually volunteer. You would need a lot of money to be one of those people. So good for them that they have the kind of resources they can buy their way into space. What that is also is an indication that the whole game has changed, and anybody with funding can undertake that kind of venture. Seems to be a little bit like Columbus discovered the way to the new world. We thought it was India. Many other adventurers found a way to finance trips, and then competing kingdoms, English, Dutch, Portuguese, send their own ships searching for the new world and the tremendous riches that would promise. One of those survived for a long time. There was a legend of the City of Gold. The city was supposed to be all made of gold, which of course to the Europeans it awakened their greed, their desire to travel immediately by ship, by any means, and come to the new world and try to capture the riches, the wealth. Over the years, or the centuries, we figured out that it was in Colombia, there was a city. There was a place called Guatavita, where the local inhabitants, they were called Indians, was a misnomer, where the tribe had a ritual in which their king was bathed in gold and taken to the middle of the lake, and then he would sink with a barge full of gold. So that's the legend, and I think that gave origin to this city of gold, this abundance of gold on the new continent. As we know, now this is the Mes de la Hispanidad, Hispanic Heritage Month, and it used to be just a celebration of Columbus's birthday on October 12th. It has become a whole full month of celebrations, or an opportunity for those who are in total disagreement with the conquest of the Americas by the Spaniards and English and Portuguese navies and merchants. Those people who disagree that it was a good thing that Columbus discovered or found or ran into this new land. And there are many people over the years who have expressed their disapproval, total anger against the destruction of the Indian civilizations, the native civilizations from Mexico, the Aztecs, the Mayas in Central America, the Incas in South America, and those are just the best known civilizations. There were hundreds of tribes. Some of the, as a side, some of the languages and cultures in Central America and Mexico survive to this day. I mean, Mexico has managed many of the original languages spoken by numerous tribes in Mexico still survive to this day. And that is a topic that we would love to address one of these days. So have a linguist, have somebody here to talk to us about the languages of the Incas, the Mayas, the Aztecs, the numerous tribes that existed on the continent. And some of them have died, but many survived. So, but back to our land here. From city and state, lawmakers are back in Harrisburg for their first session since June. And there is a lot on their agenda, from COVID-19, regulatory waivers, to advocacy efforts in change state senate rules. Here's what to keep tabs on this week. There is a pro-union effort protecting the Right to Organize Act, otherwise known as the PRO Act, and is fighting an uphill battle to become law. As critics say, it will strip independent contractors of their ability to make their own choices when it comes to work. City and State PA and AARP Pennsylvania are proud to present over 50, and they want us to join the virtual event on October 12th, 2021, from 5 to 6:30 p.m. to highlight 50 worthy individuals in Pennsylvania. Democrats in Pennsylvania's state senate pushed to block a Republican-approved subpoena seeking voter information and to put a stop to what Republicans call a forensic investigation of last year's presidential election. That's unbelievable that was still, those efforts will not die. At this point, it would seem, just by sheer fatigue, many of the people on both sides of the issue are willing to surrender. But we hope that those of us who support the effort to defeat the big lie will continue to do so. Otherwise, I mean, we get reports every day of the ultimate effect of the big lie, which is that many supporters of the former President Trump are still scaring politicians who voted against him. And then one congressman has just decided not to run for re-election because he has been threatened, his family is being threatened. So he voted to impeach the former president, and now he is being persecuted. And he's not alone. We know that that's going on around the country. But there are numerous effects of this big lie that still Donald Trump has been trying to sell with the support of many Republicans in Congress. I haven't heard any voices from other Republican leaders complaining about that. When members of the State House of Representatives return to session following their summer break, their first order of business will be to extend the temporary rule that allows members to vote by proxy. So that's one thing they're doing, to be allowed to vote by proxy, extending the rule. I wonder, how is that to their benefit? Is that to the benefit of the electorate? Is that a regulation that would favor the public? I dare say no, but you don't know. Bipartisan legislation to try to fix disputed or gray areas of the state's election law was introduced Friday in the state Senate after more than a year of lawsuits, partisan bickering, and legislative stalemates, inflamed by last year's presidential election. This is the 2020 election is one that will keep feeding the flames of dissent, the unhappiness on both sides for a very long time. So that's another instance in which we can see clearly what can happen there. At the top of the state's General Assembly's agenda when it returns is taking its new co-equal role in disaster management by extending a state of emergency for flood and tornado damage in the Philadelphia suburbs, as according to the Capital Star. As COVID-19 cases rise in the state and vocal groups of parents and students continue to rail against the state mandate to wear masks in public schools, it is hit or miss whether local districts publicly report the number of infections among their students and staff. The Pittsburgh Tribune reports that. Whether or not you agree with the fact that you want, or you, as an individual, you want to wear a mask or not, the fact is that there are mandates, that there are obligations, that we must obey the law. If they ask us, if they require that we wear a mask, we should obey. And the same thing should happen with vaccinations. And that's what I see the future coming into conflict with. You know, people say it's my individual freedom, I'm worried about my health, I should have a choice over what I put in my body, etc. That comes into conflict with the need to protect the community at large. And that is where the recent conflicts, as governments try to institute regulations to force us to stay healthy, to force us to vaccinate, to wear masks. And those are basic measures to try to control the virus. But here's my prediction. If we continue down this road, the only way some of these people will finally accept that they must vaccinate, that they must protect themselves for their benefit and for us in general, for the population in general, is when there is the crisis has reached such a point that the government is losing control. And we are not too far from there. At this point, in many parts of this country, hospitals are full of victims of COVID from people who were not vaccinated, and it has made it impossible to bring in people who have other needs to be operated, from hernias, from accidents, from heart attacks. But the people who are already occupying the hospitals are the victims of COVID, and they are there because they were not vaccinated. So That kind of crisis will force local and national governments to change the policy. You see, you will see. That is, I see that as an inevitable development in this situation. You cannot put an end to COVID, to the pandemic, unless you take extreme measures. So anyway, vamos a tomar una breve pausa. We'll stop here briefly on Usa la Radio. Les habla Fernando Méndez. Pastor Phil at the controls. We come back in 1 minute.
I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. Through a nationwide network of food banks, Feeding America serves virtually every community in the United States. See how you can help your community. Visit feedingamerica.org.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Hello. Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Méndez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news. Let's see if the mic works this way. Testing 1, 2, 3. Estamos hablando aquí en la mesa redonda, les habla Fernando Méndez. A ver si funciona el sonido de otro modo, que hay una eco, me dicen. Estamos repitiendo aquí en Usa la Radio, les habla Fernando Méndez desde la ciudad del amor fraternal. Estamos tratando de arreglar, componer el sistema para que funcione. Pero me dicen que hay un problema con el micrófono. Hemos tenido esta situación anteriormente, estamos tratando de resolverla. So what's up? Is that good? Señores oyentes de Usa la Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Round Table, desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Pastor Phil Controls. Well, another interesting item in the news, and this has been going now for a couple of weeks, and it concerns General Milley and the problems that he has encountered because there is a report. There's a report that he was unhappy with what transpires as a result of the president clearing the ground around Lafayette Park in order to have a photo op. We must remember that famous photo op in which he grabbed the Bible in a very strange way. Nobody holds the Bible that way. But somehow he wanted at that point to issue an appeal to Christians, to the fundamentalists who follow him by bringing the Bible that he probably has never used or read, and only for the photo op. Well, General Milley, full fatigue, camouflage fatigue, looking very military, accompanied Trump, along with other officials, on that that brief trip outside the White House. And Milley thinks of that as a moment in which he was embarrassed. He feels that he compromised his integrity and independence after a lifetime in the military, and having reached a high rank in the military, General Milley served as a prop for Donald Trump. And he thinks of that as a humiliating event. We don't blame him. He has other problems now that he's facing, but that particular incident is one that he will have to live with for a lifetime. Biden has lost ground recently as a result of his two actions. One, having left Afghanistan the way he left, and as we recall, that moment in Afghanistan when the airplanes take off with people practically hanging at the wheels of one of the military airplanes. That moment was reminiscent of the way we left Vietnam. And there is no way to color that event and to make it appear that somehow we took courageous or advantageous decision for this country. It just looks and smells of defeat. And then we have seen what happened. No matter how, even if you like Biden, but if you follow the developments from Donald Trump to his taking over the presidency, was there enough time for them to set up a withdrawal from Afghanistan that could have been more ordered, more humanitarian for the people who served the United States forces in Afghanistan, to make sure that people, Americans who are in Afghanistan, did not suffer? It would probably have required more time. So the way I see it right now, this is my personal opinion, between November, when Donald Trump lost the election, and January, when Trump took over, there was no easy transition from one government to the other. We know that the Trump forces were not all that eager to provide information to Biden, that there were certain aspects of the transition, the traditional transitions, in which the outgoing and the incoming administrations would cooperate to do things properly. So that created a bit of chaos regarding any decisions for withdrawing from Afghanistan. Maybe at a certain level, I suppose, the military, the people who are day to day dealing with statistics, with tactics, with strategy, how do we do this, with the long-term planning, maybe at that level they maintained contact. But the fact is, Biden did not have enough time. And the way I see it right now, he should have taken more time and gather more intelligence in terms of what would happen as soon as he left Afghanistan. What would happen to the people in Afghanistan, but certainly what would happen immediately to the number of people who were eager to leave, the supporters of the American troops who wanted to get out of Afghanistan, the number of Americans who lived there and wanted to leave. So there is no right moment to withdraw. Eventually, even if he had postponed it for another 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, there will be that painful moment. That kind of withdrawal is never going to be easy. The speed at which it was carried out, the surprising speed that even the military leadership expressed consternation. Certainly, we heard from many of the diplomats who know the area about how unreasonable it was to withdraw so quickly without proper planning. So, this could be the first big mistake of the Biden administration. It could be the biggest mistake of his administration that would have repercussions down the line. He can say until his face is blue that he was not going to give this problem to the next president, that he had to decide, that other presidents had mentioned withdrawal and never carried out the withdrawal, maybe for good reason. But we can see what happened there. Because from the other side, okay, so maybe for the US, finally, so we're going to lose some troops, we're going to lose face, we're going to lose prestige, but we are out of there. We don't have any more responsibilities in that country. But we do. Sort of moral and ethical and humanitarian needs, because we had encouraged a large segment of that population, women, young girls going to school, we had encouraged them and we had told them that they had a future, that they go to school, they could have a life, they could have professional careers, they could educate themselves, perhaps become involved in government. All that has fallen apart. Because even if we don't see it in the news, we know from many reports what the Taliban are doing in Afghanistan to suppress women. That's who they are. So they didn't change from 20 years ago. They are the same group. And now they are feeling more encouraged. They feel justified in their actions. They feel they won the conflict. They declare victory. They see the US running away. And so they feel more entitled to practice politics the way they do. So that's a tremendous mistake, the way we see it for this administration. Military withdrawal that was not organized, and the end result of the ruin for many, many women in Afghanistan. That's a moral and ethical responsibility that we failed to keep. So, señores oyentes de USALA Radio, les habla Fernando Méndez, Pastor Phil at the control. We're going to take another brief pause here in USALA Radio. Regresamos en un momento.
Había un niño que era muy sensible a luces y sonidos. Construía escondites donde no podían entrar. No le gustaba mirar a la gente a los ojos, lo hacía sentir incómodo. Un día se descubrió que tenía autismo. Con ayuda poco a poco aprendió a vivir mejor con ello.
Mientras más pronto se diagnostique, mejor. Conoce las señales en autismspeaks.org.
Los oyentes de USALA Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda de Round Table, desde el corazón de la ciudad del amor fraternal. Les habla Fernando Méndez, Pastor Phil of the Controls. Several items in the news, and we cannot get away from it because it's with us. It has been with us, and it will probably stay with us for a long time. COVID-19. And COVID in different manifestations, because apparently There's a deadly Delta version that right now is causing havoc, and many people are ending up in the hospital. A lot of young people, a lot of unvaccinated people, and please, anybody who listens, anybody who has common sense, listen to the science. Listen to doctors who have experience in dealing with this virus. Politicians will not tell you the truth. Politicians are trying to take advantage of you. They are more interested in your vote than in your health. So if you want to take actions to protect yourself and your family, this is not a time to listen to the politicians. Even if you don't trust Dr. Fauci, there are other doctors. There are hundreds of doctors who are well informed, who know what's going on, who can give you proper advice. I personally believe Fauci has all the information and he has good intentions. He wants to help you. There was one person who said, I don't trust Fauci. So what? Why? Well, he said at the beginning that we shouldn't wear masks. I said, yes, that is true. But he had a good reason for that. The reason was he didn't want those masks, the few that were available, for people to run out and buy them all, and then there wouldn't be enough masks for the people who need them at that point, who needed them the most, which was people in hospitals, doctors and nurses. But as soon as he saw the possibility of having millions of masks available, he changed that stance. People will hold on to that first expression by Fauci, not to his explanation of what was going on. Also remember that initially people had no idea how bad this virus was going to be. We knew it was going to be something like the flu, more serious than the flu, but we had no idea. Now we know. But please, do get a vaccine. And now the possibility, if you're over 65, of getting a third vaccine, a vaccination that's called a booster, to help you even if you're already vaccinated. So take advantage of that, because if you're over 65, now you're entitled to it and you can find it. The CDC, or the Federal Drug Administration, the FDA, I don't think they approve it for anybody else. But there is a vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine, and I believe another one that has been approved for children between the ages of 5 and 11, which would help us at this point for people who are getting ready to go to school. So if you are of school age, you should receive that vaccine between ages, the ages between 5 and 11. That is when the vaccine will be necessary for you. And that vaccine protects you. There's no question that the vaccines are effective. Even at this stage when they're saying that you need a booster because Pfizer and Moderna are losing effectiveness after 7 or 8 months, they're still effective. They're 85% effective even at this stage. So, by all means, take precautions. I mean, we cannot insist on this enough. The only way we're going to deal with this COVID, the only way we will be able to go back to normal and open restaurants and go back to their activities is by doing away with the virus, not by allowing it to infect other people. So, wear a mask, disinfect your hands, get a vaccination, avoid large crowds where you don't know if the people are vaccinated and where there might be some individuals who are already contagious. So those are just basic steps, common sense to do that. So CBS Sunday CBS had a third couple was interviewing this group of people in North Carolina, in a town that supposedly was the inspiration for Mayberry RFD, a very popular show. At one point, that show had about 35 million followers in the 70s, 80s. And so the people who were visiting the town are tourists who obviously fans of Mayberry RFD and the actors in it. Andy Griffith and the person who played policeman Fives. So they are the people on that particular vehicle. I think it was a bus. Were being interviewed by Ted Koppel, who asked them very pertinent and serious questions. Why do you like the show? And they said, well, we like the show because it seemed like a return to normal when things were better for this country, life was more normal, blah, blah, blah. An implication throughout the questions by Koppel and the statements by the crowd were that it was a time when blacks were not present on television, were not seen in the news. There was little that we knew about what was happening. And so he did ask the crowd about what was going on at the time. In the 1960s, there was the Cuban Missile Crisis. There were demonstrations around the country. Martin Luther King was killed at the end of '68. Robert Kennedy was. So was a moment where you buried your head in the sand if you thought that life in the U.S. was just like Mayberry RFD, because there were so many other things going on at that point. That couple was forever a very intelligent newsman who presented the news to us, and he seemed to me one of the most serious and reliable journalists of our time. So, as I said, this time was an inspiration for Mayberry RFD. The tourists liked the show, and they watched returns constantly because it is good, clean fun. Even they say that. Now, the couple just asked a few questions that reveal most of the tourists on that tour favored Trump. They said if they took a poll today, they would not favor Biden among them. They believe the election was stolen, and they are hoping that Trump will return. One woman also asked that couple not to make them look silly or uninformed, which will be difficult if you just show what they say and let them speak for themselves. It's difficult for them not to look uninformed or sort of out of touch with the country. One man said, there was a lot of voter fraud in the last election. That's what they believe, that Donald Trump lost because there was voter fraud. One man, Bobby Scales is his name, a few words in it, and he said that. He said that it was fraud in the last election, that Trump should have won, that he's hoping that this whole thing is corrected in the courts. Well, good luck with that. And one of the final questions by Ted Koppel, what do you think happened on January 6th? More than one person on that troop said that the event of January 6th, that we all witnessed, millions of us, so on television, that the events of January 6th were staged. That the people who arrived came from Black Lives Matter in trucks. They arrived in trucks to discredit Donald Trump, to create chaos. That January 6th, the insurrection was carried out by Black Lives Matter. So when you see all those people invading the U.S. Capitol with Trump flags and American flags that they carried in with bats and other weapons that caused the death of some of the policemen trying to protect the Capitol. It's a large segment of the population represented by these people in Mayberry, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, who believe that whole thing was staged. Hard to believe, but there are people like that. And there is no leadership of this country that can say to them, listen, this is real. This is what really happened. Because the big lie promoted by the inhabitant of Mar-a-Lago is what prevails. How do we get there? I don't know how to change that. I don't know how anybody can change that. That is the mentality that prevails at this point. So on a note for people who are already vaccinated and you're over 65, don't forget, you can access that booster vaccine. And a cultural note, big news for those interested in what is happening in space. I'd like to promote some scientific knowledge because, believe it or not, that's what brought us so far. That's what has caused us to be an advanced civilization. We know we have learned more about the possibility of other worlds. That this world is bigger than ours. And we must protect this Earth. And that there is a space out there full of life, and we don't know it. We keep exploring it. So astrophysicists made the first observation of an intermediate black hole absorbing a neighboring star. So the black holes have absolute density. No light escapes. And as we know, the basic theory of how we began, our universe began. The universe is what, 11.5 billion years old? But the main theory is that we came out of an explosion of that black hole, the Big Bang theory. So now they have the technology to witness how in space a black hole can absorb a star. So in practice, that sort of proves the theory But this is how we were created. Fascinating. And I just hope any student of science dares to look into that and develop some curiosity about how we can learn about our world and study the world beyond Earth. Bueno, señores oyentes de Úrsula Media, Úrsula Radio, les habló Fernando Méndez, Pastor Phil de Control. Te esperamos hasta la próxima.
Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Méndez, host of the Round Table. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news.